Welcome everybody to another episode of Section 305. I'm Raul Pagan here with my good friend, co-worker from the Miami Heat. First, we have Anthony Aguirre, and then in a couple of moments, we'll have Nick Dupont over here with us. Koya Sabler, he is spending
He's
time with
out.
the
He's out.
family.
With family business. Family business.
Yes, sir. First, family over anything. So
Amen.
he's excused for today's podcast. And before we start, Anthony, how's everything? How's the family? How's life treating you?
Family's good. Girlfriend is doing great. Like
Very
literally this
good.
past weekend, I went to see her, so that was amazing.
Nice.
Just have an amazing time, man. Blessed, healthy,
Yes, sir.
and
Amen.
it's been a minute since I've seen all you guys, but hey, I know we all doing good. That's just the best part.
Yes, sir. Nah, man. And I also want to like send a shout out and appreciation to the people that are subscribing weekly to our podcast and
Amen. Yes, sir.
the viewers. And we're trying to make like this podcast not only as interesting, but spicy and
Yes.
like different formats. It's a debate. Like we've
Yeah.
seen so many like sports analysts, fan bases, you know what I'm saying? Getting into this type of industry with the media is going all around, but obviously all the topics that we discuss, like mostly we're very professional at the same
Yes.
time, like we describe it giving facts, stats,
And
past
also giving a fan
history.
perspective.
Exactly, different perspective, like a different road that people wouldn't imagine us to head or
Yeah.
different direction, and you know what I'm saying, like you said, different perspective. So right now, section 305, this is episode 7, and all of us just to basically elaborate to the people that watch us. We're also like we're a team that some of us do the production, others do the headlines, other contributes in other departments. So that's how we try to make it like as fun and exclusive at the same time as possible. And we got like so many more ideas coming in through the future.
Just wait for
But
the off season, people. Just wait until the off season, especially in the NBA. That's gonna be a real spicy time for us to upload episodes, especially when KD stuff starts swirling around. If anything,
like
next
it
week
just
can be
started. Like it
hey,
just
if
started.
anything, next week can be a good time to talk about it. Just saying that it could be a good time because we have our thoughts, we have our informations, but
Yep.
we'll get to it when we get to it.
Yep. And Anthony is our source. He's got very strong and powerful people that are in the industry. So
Yeah,
that's why he's like a big asset to this basically show. And let's just call it like a mini company that we're starting here
yeah. That's
in
fair to
the
say. That's fair to
TV,
say.
in the sports and TV radio industry. And so, yeah, in a couple moments, we're going to have Nick over here. He's on his way. But
Let's get into it.
before we get to the three topics, like, do you think by next week the Thunder and Pacers series is gonna be over? Like
By
just
next
watching like the remaining of the schedule. Like we got tonight, Wednesday, we got Friday. So like let's just say if the Pacers or the Thunder steal 2 games on the row, or the Pacers defend their territory.
I can
So
see,
that
I can see, I can see an even split. I can see an even split because again, the Thunder are just they're good on the road just as much as home. I would imagine. I'm pretty sure the stats would say so. Um, Indiana, like it's a great crowd. They're a strong fan base. They're diehard fans in
hostile,
Indiana.
hostile,
Hostile environment. Yeah, not like New York or Philadelphia, but they're still gonna rattle you out. You saw what they did to
of
Milwaukee
course.
for 2 straight years. But so I can imagine. I envision a split. I will envision a split. I think by the time game five comes out, by the time game five comes, it'll be 2-2. Game five will be the deciding factor of the series. And I said Thunder in six, so I'm
Yeah,
gonna roll with that. Thunder in six,
yeah.
but it's gonna be a hell of a series, man. Like
We'll make
it's been great the first 2 games so far, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. We're gonna make the predictions once we finish the last topic, which is
Yeah.
NHL with the Panthers taking a 2-1 series lead. But let's go with the first one, which Anthony, You're telling me that this was a surprise? Like we didn't see this
No.
coming with the Steelers not drafting a quarterback, with the Steelers basically letting Russell Wilson and Justin Fields walk out of the building, like trading
Yeah.
Justin Fields and then not resigning Russell Wilson because since Ben Roethlisberger retired, it's mostly been the defense that has
Yes,
carried
of course.
them to the playoffs or to a winning record. Also, Mike Tomlin deserves his flowers. He's never had
Amen.
a
Of
losing
course.
season, but
Yeah.
like they were trying to be basically like the Cowboys, trying to create controversial type of headlines, you know what I'm saying? Make a conversation through all the sports networks. And basically, we haven't been, this is the first time we're talking about this, but we
Yeah.
were, in a couple of last episodes, we were talking about like how the AFC every
Yeah.
year is
Also,
getting even more interesting.
yeah. Also, by the last episode, he wasn't officially signed. And like, not to say that this is not
Exactly.
going to happen. Everyone knew in the world that this was going to happen. But of course, we had to wait until he officially signed. Of course, passed his physical, which he did. Now he signed, like it says in the headline, 1 year deal, 13.65 million, 10 million guaranteed. Not a bad price for a quarterback for 1 year, especially of his caliber. But this is how I say can like to answer the question, can he lead the Steelers to a winning record? I have a hard time saying yes. Here's the thing: they have an easy schedule to start the year. They go against the Jets, the Seahawks, and then the Patriots. That's their first 3 weeks, and then the Vikings, and then the bye week. But to me, what catches my eye is the end of the stretch of the season. Their last 6 weeks: Buffalo,
Mm,
Baltimore,
mm,
Miami,
mm,
Detroit,
mm,
Cleveland, and then ends
mm.
with Baltimore. So they
And
can win. They could probably win against Miami because that's a toss up. We can all admit that it's a toss up. But the other games, like those are arguably besides the Cleveland Browns, the rest of them are Super Bowl contenders.
and most of them being on the same division as them, the North, which
Exactly. Yeah, two of these, no, three of these games are division. Two Baltimores and one against Cleveland.
I mean, they could have given them better two Cleveland instead of two Baltimores. Like, hey, they could be at their territory or on the road. Even though the Steelers and the Ravens like rivalry is always interesting, and especially
Yeah.
sometimes that defense surprises Lamar Jackson in that offense. But I want to basically talk about what we seen from Rodgers like in the past seasons after he departed from the Green Bay Packers. So he missed the
So
first season.
should we exclude the 1 year he was injured, the one game,
That's
just
that's where that's where I was getting at, because
Mhm.
obviously after 4 or 5 steps, that's when he torn his Achilles
Yep.
and then
Had
misses
the
the
infamous run with the American flag, and as a real American patriot, man, I just want to say
yeah.
love it, but it was just no.
I loved it. I loved it. It was crazy, but it been better if the outcome wouldn't be Zach Wilson winning the game, because he didn't
Yeah.
play at his best, and then but he didn't play at his best, but they got the W and
Yeah.
against the Buffalo Bills, and it was a scenery that basically broke the hearts of the fan base, because you know what I'm saying, they were like, man, it's been since the '60s since we've won a Super Bowl. And now,
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, as an organization, the fan base knows that they've done a horrific job. Like, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Trying to get an elite quarterback since Joe Namath, if I'm not mistaken, was the last quarterback to win a Super Bowl with them. And it was like in the ending of the '60s. And
Hmm.
that's why he still is considered like, let's just say, like one, if not the best quarterback that they've had, because he's the only one that brought them a Super Bowl title. And so, if then we've seen them like drafting, they thought Zach Wilson was gonna be the deal, and then they've been like trying to recruit certain veterans until they thought Aaron Rodgers was the solution. And in my opinion, I thought it was. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like they had an elite
No,
defense,
I mean
something that the Steelers have right now, or what the Steelers have had for
yeah.
so many consistent years. And then the offense, all right, you've seen like young pieces, and Rodgers also had to bring players like Randall Cobb, Alan Lazard, with Gary Wilson already being there. Then they had to sign which running back was it with Dalvin Cook and all that. So you're already seeing basically a good team assemble from the Jets. All right, so we'll exclude, just like you said, the first season. And even with that, like the Jets were still in the mixture of possibly making the playoffs with Joe Flacco or with Zach Wilson. Now, in his second year, which he played most of the full season,
Now he played
like
every game.
it, his numbers are not that bad. Like maybe his
No,
QBR was
no.
bad. His QBR was bad, but like number wise, like and with the inconsistent and with their offense basically looking like the Steelers offense since Ben Roethlisberger retired. Like he
Yeah.
had 28 touchdowns, 11 interceptions only, almost 4,000-yard passing. Like for him to be considered like one of his worst seasons of his career, and at the age that he has, those are actually good numbers for, let's just say, a decent quarterback, or let's say for Russell Wilson at his age right now, and other quarterbacks that are trying to become QB1s. Now, did he not perform in like big moments that when they needed him to make a drive? Yes, that's where they're basically criticizing him. That's
Yeah, but at
where
the same time, he's this late in his career. There's not much that he can do. Of course, every grade has a decline or start to decline. We kind of saw that with the Jets. Again, now credit to him, he did play every game last season after coming off an Achilles injury, and he deserves prop for that. But of course, it just didn't lead to field success. Like he hasn't recorded 4,000 yards in a season since the second to last year in Green Bay. And not to say he hasn't put up good numbers, it's just they're not to the MVP level that he once was. So it's just hard to see that like he can get you wins for the Steelers, no doubt about it. It's just can he get you to where you want to be? You haven't won a playoff game since what was it like 2018, 16, something like that.
yeah.
Yeah, so it's like that should be the ultimate goal. And can Rodgers do that for you? I'm not confident to say yes, to be honest. And
His last playoff win was before they faced if I'm not mistaken, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the year that they lost in the championship game, the
yeah,
NFC championship game. Like the game before, if I'm not mistaken, that was their last win. And then you saw like the Packers like not going through a bad direction, but all this drama and saga with them, basically like him wanting to leave or stay. Like if he was gonna stay, they were gonna give him a big contract extension, like a 3 year, 150 million, which they did. But at the same time, he didn't saw like the right pieces around him to be contenders. Because remember, this is a guy that the last MVPs that he won, he's been going basically all the way to the NFC Championship game. And we saw how they lost against the San Francisco 49ers when Jimmy Garoppolo took the San Francisco team to the Super Bowl and how they got blew out. Then we see him play Tom Brady in the NFC Championship. At the same time, he had a good game, but then people can talk about how he choked and how Matt LaFleur also took the ball out of his hands and they went for a field goal instead of trusting him and try to basically like execute a big play and in order to like cut the lead to 3 points. And so like obviously Matt LaFleur received a lot of criticism from that play of taking the ball out of his hand. But why did he do it? Because apparently he didn't trust his MVP quarterback at that moment to deliver, just like we've seen Tom Brady do year and year and year throughout his career. Even at the age of when he retired, 45 years, like he retired, then he
then
sat
he
out for
came
one
back.
season, then he came back, this and that. Tom Brady is somebody that literally something similar to what we're seeing at a young age from Patrick Mahomes. Like you cannot give him the ball back.
No
Whatever
facts.
means, whatever means necessary, you gotta run the clock. You gotta run the clock, and because he is definitely gonna deliver in big moments, clutch
Next.
moments for
Really
them
going,
to
guys.
come back and win. And now we got Nick Dupont over here, Nick over there at the Kaseya Center, basically
He's
or
You know
can
what
guarding
it
I
the
is? You know
say
court.
what's up?
He's
You know
guarding.
what's
He
up?
is
Living in the
guarding the
building.
court
I
with
live
his
in the
right.
building. I live at work. I live at work. It's what I love.
well, man, we
Hey,
were
give Nick the
we
floor for at least a couple
yeah
minutes.
we when we started talking about this topic. We basically being elaborating on Aaron Rodgers like last couple of seasons, mostly like the ending of last decade, the beginning of
Okay,
this
cool.
decade, and so like if you want to piggyback of what we speaking,
Well, the only thing I would
we
like to say, not regarding his career, like in the past or whatever, he better be ready for Miles Garrett. Miles Garrett is going to have his number on lock. He wants to add another jersey to that grave of sacks that he has, the grave of quarterbacks. He wants to add a number 8 to that grave. I guarantee it.
I
Speaking
mean
of the Browns, just to hang on, I got this just for this.
Ah, this guy,
Shador.
bro. That's your guy for all next
QB1.
year.
that's
That's your guy for all next
that's
year.
that's his guy for next year, huh?
This is my
Crazy.
guy,
Shadur
man. This
Shadur
is my
Sanders. I
guy.
mean, no, like I'm not gonna lie, like all of us picked basically Joe Flacco since he's the veteran
Yeah,
to
no,
like
even I
start
picked
the
Joe
season
Flacco
off.
to
But
start the year,
obviously,
but
obviously, who's better marketing Shadur Sanders,
yeah,
who supposedly is gonna like silence those critics for him being drafted in the fifth round. You know what I'm saying? People sleeping on him and passing him by. Like he's got a lot to deliver, and especially you know what I'm saying with all that hype that he had
no,
in
no, he does, he does.
HBCU, in
Even
Jackson
even
State, Colorado, and now
even
being in the NFL.
you
Like
know, even I said the episode we talked about it. Like again, I picked Flacco to start the year, but at some point, I do believe wholeheartedly. I think I said by week 4 that there will be a switch, and I believe Shador will get the call. So yeah,
yeah, no, mostly agree. And now, interesting what you sent us today, Anthony. Like the Dylan Gabriel situation. Like he, at the same time, like everybody that has been like seeing training camp, like all the scouts and analysts saying that top three are Sanders, Flacco, and Dylan Gabriel. But now there's like that scenery that possibly Dylan Gabriel could be traded. You know what I'm saying before the season or during the season, depending. You know what I'm saying at the outcome of the QB1, QB2
I
scenario,
mean
because that's
The
also important.
Colts. Yeah, I mean the Colts are obviously the eye because of course with Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
So that will be a big thing. But
It's
let's not get too off topic. Let's stick to
so
this.
I haven't answered it, but I want to give it to Nick because all right, Anthony said that Rogers
Yeah. Come on, give Nick the
can
floor. Come on, Nick. Super word, brother.
Rogers. You said that Rogers can lead the Steelers to a winning record in the AFC.
I I'll say this. I'll just to summarize. I believe we'll have a good start to the year, 3-0, because they're against pretty much weaker opponents. But once that like 6 week to the end of the season starts, when that tough stretch hits, I believe that's when the Steelers might really hit a downfall. The same way the Dolphins have the last couple of years. Good starts to the seasons, bad endings to it. So I see similar to this situation, and I think a losing record is going to come out of this. And
A
no
losing
playoffs.
record.
I think so, yeah.
Like Mike
Because
Tomlin has never had a losing record in his
I
career.
think this will be the first time.
Even with Mason Rudolph being his
No,
quarterback,
and
even with
no,
Kenny Pickett being his quarterback,
no,
even
and
with a
that
guy working at Publix being his quarterback, he's never had
no,
a
and
losing
listen,
record.
this is no shade to Mike, but I just don't think that this roster as a whole. I think like again, it's just the formula that they've had to have a winning record. I don't believe it will sustain to this year, in my opinion.
What do you think about that, Nick?
In regards, I actually want to say I think the Steelers are going to have a winning record. Whether they're not to make the playoffs, that's the real question that I want to ask. Mike Tomlin has never had a losing season in the NFL. He's had Mason Rudolph and so many other quarterbacks just as not even above par, not even at average, have winning seasons. He's had an amazing defense for years now. And honestly, I think Rodgers fills the void that they need at quarterback. They just got DK Metcalf. They just traded for him. They have a good offensive line. They have decent running backs. They still have weapons. Not as many as they used to, clearly, but
Of course.
hey, I think Aaron Rodgers is going to be a really great fit for them, and I can see them having a winning record because even Russell Wilson did it last year. We had Justin Fields come
Justin
in.
Fields as
let me
well. Justin Fields as well.
let me
Well,
ask,
I don't
I
want
want
to. I don't want to disrespect Justin Fields, but Russell Wilson came in halfway through the season, towards the end of the season, and got them to where they needed to.
But
be.
they were but with Fields they were
yeah,
still winning.
wait, Raul, before you get to your answer, like Nick, let me ask you this: if Rodgers can really fill the void for the Steelers, how come he couldn't really be in those conversations for other teams that could have needed a quarterback?
Well, I just think a lot of it is locker room presence. Even at the beginning of the offseason, Cameron Hayward of the Pittsburgh Steelers mentioned that he didn't really want Aaron Rodgers in the locker room because he's a locker room nuisance. That's just what he's known to be now throughout the NFL. Unfortunately, he's a 4-time MVP, but he's just a locker room nuisance. I don't think a lot of teams want to take that, and the Pittsburgh Steelers were in desperate need for quarterback. So I think it's a good fit for them. I think it's a good signing because it's really just going to humble Rodgers, and he's going to be in a position to succeed. I think he will succeed this season.
Wait, and real quick for both of you guys, let me ask you this: what do you think the signing is more of? Do you think the signing is more of a desperation move, or like, okay, we can actually do something for a season?
I definitely feel like it's a desperation move. Because they went into the draft and everyone was expecting them to kind of take a quarterback at some point, and they just kept dropping and dropping and dropping until they took Kyle McCord. And I don't think, no offense to Kyle McCord, he's a great quarterback, but I just don't see him as the future franchise quarterback for that franchise, especially when you're out here signing Rodgers and you have Mason Rudolph as your active number one player to start the season. Again, I just think this is something that it's like a Russell Wilson pickup where he's going to be a serviceable quarterback for one season. He's going to get them to where they need to be. He's going to have Mike Tomlin get another winning season under his belt. And yeah, man, Aaron Rodgers still got some gas in the tank. And we saw it last year a little bit at times with the New York Jets, but I think he's in a whole new system and he's not in a trash organization like the New York Jets. So he's going to succeed. I genuinely believe it.
Bro, finish this off that way, like just to make sure we're good on timing.
Sorry, so the question says, can Rodgers lead the Steelers to a winning record in the AFC and make the playoffs?
Yeah.
No, he cannot, because it's always going to be the defense that leads the Steelers to the playoffs.
Respect.
What have we witnessed since Ben Roethlisberger retired? Like, they've had no big marketing quarterbacks, and when they thought they had a franchise quarterback, they were talking about his hands were too small. He was a 20th pick, and he was under a lot of pressure. This is the same dude that did the fake slide and then ran for that ball in college, and now they're talking about making a rule out of it, that it should be illegal, this and that. Okay, and then Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, like, we haven't seen in a while, like, let's just say, between a veteran and a supposedly future young prospect, having a quarterback battle to see who would have started. And if it wasn't for Wilson being injured, he was going to start. Fields has had to be the QB1 until Russell Wilson got 100%. And so when both of them were on the field, yeah, I mean, they were not the reason why they lost, but at the same time, they were not the reason why they won. Like, the offense, even with the coordinators that they've been firing, and that's mostly on Mike Tomlin, trying to please the people that he's been hiring, joining the people from the front office, this and that, because, like, when he brings them, they cannot disappoint him. But it's always been that elite defense with T.J. Watt, who won Defensive Player of the Year like 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken, 3 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. You got Cameron Hayward, and now you got a safety like Deshaun Elliott. You got Patrick Queen. Like, your defense is always gonna be solid. Darius Slade Jr. and other ones. In the offense, you've had the pieces. Like, you've had the George Pickens. You've had the Deontay Johnsons. You've had the Najee Harris. Now you got the Pat Fairmouth, which he's a good tight end. You've got
underrated tight end, if I may say so.
What?
One of the most underrated tight ends in the NFL.
I agree completely. And this dude can be averaging minimum 10 touchdowns if there's a quarterback, a real quarterback throwing him the ball. Like, he can be at that, like, Kelsey, Rob Gronkowski elite level. If he's got like a star and consistent quarterback throwing him in the ball. Now you got DK Metcalf, just like you said. Like, DK Metcalf, he had to deal with Russell Wilson and then Geno Smith. He was still putting good numbers, and he's healthy. He's consistent. And he how do you say, he runs the right routes. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's difficult to stop a monster like that. Now you don't got Najee Harris. You got a Jalen Warren. You can develop him. You can still, like, do damage with him. You've lost Deontay Johnson. You lost George Pickens. The pieces are still there. But now, Aaron Rodgers, yeah, he's going to have, just to end this, he's going to have a season, basically, that is going to be his last dance. Because this is the only time that he has to basically reinvent himself. We all know that. And we know he's he's the most talented quarterback we've seen. Not the greatest, but the most talented. Like, and I'm not talking about number wise. I'm just talking about him. Like his mentality, the right decisions, the when he has to improvise, and his QBR percentage, and how he's made most of the wide receivers that has played with him throughout his career, especially his last seasons with Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb. Look at Devontae Adams. He's one of like the best wide receivers. Now he's been in like suspicious situations since he departed from the Packers. But yeah, I still believe like Aaron Rodgers, he still got gas in his tank. But now we gotta see to believe, and he can lead that team because their offense has been so horrible. So that's why I'm gonna answer no, he cannot. They just gotta produce points. Just put points on the scoreboard, guys, because the defense is always gonna be efficient. But they need help. They gotta be out of the field.
Yeah, and just for Coyle, since he's not here. Oh wait, no, Colia.
Oh yeah,
I gotta say his name better. Damn.
Come on, man.
You
got
respect.
Come on, man. You don't deserve that disrespect.
For this question, he said that Rodgers can lead the Steelers to a winning record and they could make the playoffs.
So
That's
it's 1-3 like always, huh? That's how you guys
Oh,
gonna
it's,
do
it's
me.
how it's always gonna be, man.
That's
That's how it's always gonna be.
That's how it's gonna be. Come on, man. And just to end it with this at the same time, remember what you said, Anthony? Like, what was the last time the Packers won a playoff series? Was the year that I told you when they with Aaron Rodgers, because we already know that they blew out the Cowboys. The Cowboys with Jared Love.
We're all here for Cowboys slander, but I'm talking about Aaron Rodgers.
The last time they won a playoff with Aaron Rodgers was the year that Tom Brady and the Buccaneers won the Super Bowl. It was in the NFC Championship game when they lost, and then they lost, if I'm not mistaken, 31-26. And instead of going for a touchdown and a 2-point, Matt LaFleur took the ball out of his hands and they wait for a field goal. And then when you give Tom Brady the ball back, you're not getting it again, especially in the last minutes. So, it could have been a different outcome. The Buccaneers were dominating the Packers, but the Packers came back. Aaron Rodgers was, making great plays. But final moment, 4th down, you got to risk it. And if you believe in that MVP and that talented player, you don't take the ball out of his hands. But why he did it? Because at the same time, he was nervous. He didn't trust it in his quarterback to deliver and tie the game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. But yeah, I still am going through the direction that Mike Tomlin, that defense, are always gonna be effective. Now we gotta see to believe, because like you say, Anthony, the schedule is, let's just say, 50-50. The first half is kind of like flexible. The second half,
those last 6 weeks is what's really gonna be their that will be their battle test.
And can you repeat it to Nick?
Yeah, so the last 6 weeks for the Steelers, let me double check just to make sure everything's correct.
Yeah.
Buffalo, then Baltimore, Miami, Detroit, Cleveland, ending with Baltimore.
It's a really, except Miami, that's going to be a difficult one.
Yeah, exactly.
That time, you've heard people say any single sport basically has playoff time, because those are people that are trying to clinch a spot. Either it's a divisional round, this and that. So, the Steelers with Mike Tomlin, they've never had a losing season. So they either they make it or not to the playoffs. They definitely got to have a winning record. But guys, the AFC, especially where he is in the North, with the Baltimore Ravens, with the Cincinnati Bengals, and these players around Joe Burrow getting big contracts. And then you get to see the Browns scenario. Like, now you get to see who's going to be the QB1. Who's going to be the QB1 and how they're going to start off this season. Because most of the offensive players, they're not there anymore. Like, they're in other situations. You just saw Nick Chubb signing with the Texans. But yeah,
I mean, speaking of defense, I think that's a good time to transition to the next topic with defensive coaches, losing their jobs, which is wild.
So let's go, which is wild, because right now in the NBA, compared to the NFL coaching vacancies, NHL and MLB, like NBA right now, it's a win now situation or you're fired.
Yep.
Literally. So let's go the next topic, which at the end of the show, we're going to give our prediction after the NHL with tonight's game. But yeah, let's talk about how, for the first time in a while, everybody, and I mean literally everybody, was surprised that Tom Thibodeau was fired. And so
Yeah,
now the
I
Knicks
mean,
are head coach. They're on a hunt for a new head coach. So let's go directly to the question. And we're gonna start with Knicks since
yeah,
you had the first
you know,
word
it's
on
fair.
the
It's
first
definitely fair.
topic. So all right. So we've seen them asking permissions to the Minnesota Timberwolves for Chris Finch
Can
recently.
I add to that
Yeah.
real quick just before, like, so like you're gonna say Chris Finch. They asked for Ime Udoka. They asked for Jason Kidd. This morning they asked for Jason Kidd. All the organizations were obviously denied their request to talk to them. Literally, like a few minutes before we started recording, they asked for Quinn Snyder from Atlanta, and of course they denied. So that's four coaches they tried to go for
Wait. Can you
and
repeat the
failed.
last one? Can you repeat the last one?
Quinn Snyder from the Atlanta Hawks. They
Interesting.
Yeah, according to Shams, they requested to talk to him. Of course, they denied their request.
They should keep their mouth shut, not even
Mm-hmm.
publicize. Like
Mm-hmm.
so you were asking permission to a coach that had success during the season with the Jazz, never couldn't make it to the Western Conference Finals even when they were like contenders.
And number
And
one
then he
seed
goes
too,
to
by the way.
Atlanta, and then he goes to Atlanta thinking he's a solution, and their solution is to make it a play-in and never make it to the playoffs. And so like you are heading into that direction. Like right now you're in desperate moments. Like a desperate moment is exactly what we talked about. The Steelers needed to sign Aaron Rodgers. But now when you got those three organizations that Anthony just said rejecting them to ask rejecting them for them interview those high quality coaches, then you go to a Quinn Snyder from the Atlanta Hawks. Like this is what the Knicks are all about. Nick, just answer the question.
I mean,
Really
honestly,
cannot
if you're the
believe this.
Knicks, I wouldn't regret it. Personally, I wouldn't regret if I was the Knicks. You know, this guy for 5 seasons has led you absolutely nowhere. Yeah, he's brought great pieces, but he's done the exact same thing as he did in Chicago. Gone to an Eastern Conference Finals, has done absolutely nothing. And even then, he runs his players into the ground, and even his own players dislike that. So I think that the Knicks should not regret this personally, and I hope they consider signing Mike Malone because Mike Malone would be a very good signing for the New York Knicks, bringing a whole new culture, a championship-winning culture from Denver. Yes, you can argue that that was Jokic's championship, but Mike Malone was that coach. Mike Malone was in that locker room, keeping his guys intact. You know what I mean?
And let me get to that real quick. I don't have any like confirmation on this. It's more of a theory. I think the main reason you're not hearing Mike Malone in these conversations is because they're like him and Thibodeau are essentially the same. They're both pretty hard nosed. They're both old school. They're both defensive minded. So now, like again, like Nick, to your credit, he is a championship coach. You can't discredit that. You haven't won a championship. The Knicks have not won a championship since the '70s. Like you said, you like the Dolphins.
'73.
You haven't won since the '70s. But I think that's the only reason why they're not going. They're not. At least you're not hearing they're going for Mike Malone. It's just because of you want a different voice. And I actually saw some reports mainly from James Edward from the Athletic. He said a couple things. One, the Knicks are not ending their pursuit for Jason Kidd because there are other ways around getting to him. Will they do it? Will it go further? I'm not so sure yet, but it's interesting to know that. And second,
I personally wouldn't like Jason Kidd as the New York Knicks head coach. I don't
yeah,
think that'd be a very good culture fit for them.
not just that, but
He played for them
I feel like that's
Well,
more
regardless of
also.
playing for them, it was some of his worst years of basketball. I just don't think it'd be a good culture fit for him.
because he was
Also,
past
I
his
feel like
prime.
it was
Because he
more
was
of like
past
a
his
Yahoo
prime.
pool.
He was past his prime. He already won a championship with Dallas. He wasn't gonna be the Jason Kidd from the Nets and the Mavericks. He was
That's what I'm
just gonna
saying.
be a veteran, last timing moments for him, New York Knicks player.
I mean, who knows, man? Who knows? Dallas could go on sign. I mean, sorry, New York could go on sign Jason Kidd, but I just don't think it's the right fit for them. I think personally, I think Jason Coach is a very mediocre coach. I think he's above average right now because there aren't that many amazing coaches, in my opinion, in the NBA. But overall, I think Jason Kidd's very average compared to like Mike Malone, Quinn Snyder, even what's this guy's Mike Brown, for example.
But good thing you mentioned that because Edwards also mentioned Mike Brown and Taylor Jenkins are names to watch out for in the
Yeah, man.
Knicks hunt. And those
That's
actually
the
make sense because they're actually available. They're actual free agent coaches.
All right, so you agree, Nick, that they shouldn't regret firing him. So what's
Oh,
your answer? Yeah,
so
Anthony.
my answer for this is I think they will regret it because this he like I know you said Nick you go to a conference finals and you do nothing you do nothing like Chicago. But the Knicks haven't been there since in 25 years, in nearly our lifetimes. Now Raul's been here a little longer, so he saw them getting back there back then. But Nick, you and I weren't alive the last time they made it, so I feel like it was just a bad move, especially on James Dolan, the owner of the Knicks. I just thought it was a bad move in my opinion. So I think they will regret it. And from where they go from here, um, get calling to Mike Brown or Taylor Jenkins, people who are actually available. Stop trying to go for people who are already occupied in jobs.
What they call it answered.
He said to go for either Johnny Bryant, who's the associate coach for the Cleveland Cavaliers, or Sam Cassell. I think he's currently with Boston, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Boston assistant.
Yeah, which makes sense. I mean, Sam Cassell is a very respected person in the league.
All right, guys. So I definitely feel like they should regret firing him, especially with all the things you said. 25 years not making it to the Eastern Conference. He did it. He's had to deal with so many different moves that Leon Rose has done throughout the years, and how basically through this decade, 5 seasons being a coach, one head coach of the year, 4 playoff appearances, trying to manage a rotation, which people are gonna fault him because he was utilizing too much of the starters. Maybe he wasn't seeing production from the bench during practices, because that's what happens. The coaches are not gonna just sit you down because they decided, or sometimes it could be any type of discipline situations that we don't know inside the locker room. But if he's not utilizing you, there's gonna be reasons. And at the same time, the Knicks have been a team that, tell me one season, just give me one, when you said, man, that's a 6 man of the year for the Knicks. Oh damn, that's depth right there. They got bench. Their bench are elite.
You're gonna hate me for saying this.
They were
2021 with Derrick Rose, Emmanuel Quickly. Those guys off the bench were really good. I thought so for that year. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Hey, come on. Derrick Rose was he like okay? Nick,
Anthony, I deserve a strike for being here late, but that deserves a strike right there,
bro. That's like a big strike and a half. I'm trying to be humble. I would have given you 2. I would have given you 2.
If I'm not mistaken, Derrick Rose at that time when he got traded from Detroit to New York was a 6-man of the year candidate.
How good was their bench really though?
Yeah. All right, let's just apart
from Emmanuel Noel, who was a good defender by the way.
Where did they go? Where did they go?
Obviously, they didn't go far, but
that was
the start of what they are now. I thought it was a good bench, in my opinion.
All right, so answer this. Didn't 2021, when they make it a playoffs for the first time in years, basically since the half of last decade when Melo departed from that team, didn't they make it for the first time? He won Coach of the Year, and so their defense was elite, like you said, defensive mindset. But their offense was like one of the most horrific stats that we've seen, and they got eliminated in the first round by Cleveland, if I'm not mistaken, or what? No, Atlanta. Ice trade.
Just so we can all agree, that was a fluke ass run, by the way. That was a fluke run, but I give you that. It got bad during the playoffs. As soon as it started, it got bad. I agree with you there. But throughout the year, I thought it was a pretty good bench, in my opinion.
All right, so anyways, through the rest of the years that they made the playoffs, all right, what have they had in depth in the bench?
The other years,
then when they missed the playoffs, and then when they made it the playoffs, that they lost against the Cavaliers in the first round. They beat the Cavaliers. They beat the Cavaliers. Then they lost in the second round
to the Heat.
To the Heat. And then
you still had quickly coming off the bench, and he was pretty good before that injury. I think it was an ankle injury in that Heat series.
Anthony, you just mentioning one player. You're not telling me an elite bench. Like, all right, so they had this, and this. You're just telling me one player, which in some games he didn't even got minutes because basically he disappeared in moments when they needed him to produce out of the bench. Like, I'm not, and quickly
Miles
right now,
McBride.
and quickly, Miles McBride was the other day. He just arrived to the organization, and then he had a good start. All of a sudden, fell off, and they were not even utilizing him during the rest of the season and during the playoffs. Like, are you hearing the words that are coming out of your mouth? Like, you saw the average of that team. Their team were averaging off the bench 10 to 15 points max. Minimum 10 or lower. It was the starters that were basically producing 90%. And last season, they were one game away to make it in the Eastern Conference Finals with losing Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, Bojan Bogdanovic. Then Josh Hart gets injured. Then you lose Jalen Brunson in Game 7. And they almost made it to the playoffs. He was getting criticized.
Boyan was the lead Boyan was looking at lead that year. Boyan was going to look elite for the Knicks.
Exactly, bro. He's been losing all those players. And then he's have to... depending, like, basically the third unit, like, he's had to handle whatever he has in his table. And look at all the players.
Thibodeau acts like he has nothing. This year, I'll say, I'll look at this year. This year, of course, it wasn't the most spontaneous bench. It wasn't the best, most talented bench.
Bro, they played two people the entire playoffs.
Oh, my God.
You can't tell me Cameron Payne or Delon Wright can't give you nothing.
Bro, if Cameron Payne is your seventh man coming off the bench, there's a severe problem.
Oh my God. Okay.
I don't care what teams he's been on. That is a severe problem for an NBA organization.
You know why he's mentioning?
All right.
You know why he's mentioning Cameron Payne? Nick, you know why he's mentioning Cameron Payne? Because I don't know if he's still like watching videos from the 2021 NBA Finals with the Phoenix Suns. You know what I'm saying? Like he's literally still digging up from that year. Like, that year must have been amazing for him. I don't know what happened to him. But even then,
Cameron Payne didn't even have a good season. He had a good finals run, and that was it.
That was his last. Exactly. That was his.
He had a good stretch. Shouldn't that matter more?
One final stretch. That's the equivalent of a Caleb Martin final stretch.
Do you remember next season when they faced the Lakers?
How about Landry Shamet? He was really good in the playoffs.
Who?
Landry Shamet.
Don't give me that. Don't give me that. Don't give me that.
All right. Shamet can produce, but you're still living in that past Landry Shamet Clippers player. You're still living in that past Landry Shamet. Okay.
You could argue that if it wasn't for some of his moments, that they might have lost sooner.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong, but they still didn't win the finals. I don't consider that to be an elite bench. I consider Phoenix to be one of those teams that they were just lucky that the COVID year happened, and then they had to face all these teams that were just exhausted. Just like Milwaukee coming out of the East, playing Miami round one, sweeping us because we were tired. The next round, they fucking dogged the next team, and then the next round they won. And then you have the other stuff.
And let's see the Phoenix run from that season. All right, so they won the first round against the Lakers. Against who? Against a team that lost Anthony Davis. Then they faced the Denver Nuggets, who had nobody there. It was all Jokic. Then they faced the third round, a Clippers team that lost Kawhi in the second round.
Let's not forget the COVID year beforehand, so they're all tired.
Exactly. So, like, come on, man. Like, whatever. Tom Thibodeau has had to deal with, all right, talented players, but in my opinion, has done a lot with little because of that lack of depth. Like, you see these teams like the basic.
You can also argue Spoelstra has had way less than Thibodeau.
I mean, that's why he's the highest paid coach and the most untouchable coach in the NBA now. That's a topic that we can leave for another day.
Okay, wait, let me ask you about this, because obviously you guys are more history buff than I am in all sports. In all of Tom Thibodeau's leagues, I mean, Tom Thibodeau's teams, has he ever had a year where he actually absolutely not had a good bench? Like, I mean, straight up bumps.
Like straight up bombs.
We're talking Chicago. We're talking Minnesota. Like those.
He brought the Timberwolves to the playoffs for the first time since 2004.
Was there a year that he actually had none of a bench? He had to rely on starters fully and completely.
In Chicago.
And while Rose was getting injured, and then you see some players departed.
Literally, almost all of the Chicago era. That was what it was. It was literally when they would go to the playoffs, they would rely on their first 7 players, like the Knicks series, and that was it.
And so one thing, Nick and Anthony, let's just say that there's no big three in Miami. Doesn't that Chicago team go all the way to the finals and possibly win against the Dallas team?
100%.
Absolutely.
Oh, I don't know about that Dallas team, but maybe.
Man, bro, they had a good starting lineup. They had a good starting lineup, and they had bench.
Listen, man, if you look at that Dallas Mavericks run, I would argue that run that the Mavericks went on facing Kobe,
of course,
KD, and I think they played Timmy D. Dude, like that's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous line of teams they played against.
No, that championship run from Dallas was like what they had to go through. That was
the
crazy.
hardest
That was,
ring ever in NBA.
but at the same time, like Derrick Rose was in his MVP prime. He won MVP that season. Tom Thibodeau won Coach of the Year that season. And you got Joakim Noah, who is a dog. You got Carlos Boozer. You got Keith Bogans and other pieces. Luol Deng, man. And those players were hungry to win championships because those players were in certain teams that they made it to the playoffs but never could pass like even the third round or make it to the third round. So
they did not play the San Antonio Spurs. They played the Memphis Grizzlies and beat them in 7. That 2011 Mavericks team, sorry.
Thunder and the Lakers.
But then they played the Lakers, which the Lakers won.
No. So that series, so they played the Nuggets, and sorry.
You're talking about the Dallas?
Yeah,
the Mavericks played the Portland. So that year they beat the Miami Heat. They beat
the Portland in the first round.
They beat Portland, then Memphis, and then OKC. But that OKC team was
actually they beat the Lakers.
Yeah, wasn't that Lakers that year?
It was the Lakers.
No.
Remember? Yeah,
now.
Yeah, remember when Adju Bynum elbowed JJ Barea?
I'm literally looking at it right now.
And that's Barea that was playing. That he was a big factor for that team winning a championship.
Gentlemen, again, I am looking at the stats right now. Literally, Dallas played Portland, Memphis, and OKC, then beat Miami in 6. That was what they did.
Dude, they beat Portland, then they beat the Lakers, and then OKC.
No. Oh, you're right. I'm an idiot. Everyone that's watching this, I am an absolute idiot at reading the internet. Raul, you are amazing.
Because I remember every single detail from that Dallas team. Like remember that was Phil Jackson's, if I'm not mistaken, last season as a coach. He was like, "All right, I'm gonna retire," and then he became the president for the Knicks, and then OKC series. But yeah. What I'm trying to say is, like, what we've seen from Tom Thibodeau throughout his career. I mean, he's a champion as an assistant coach from Doc Rivers with the Celtics before he became a head coach.
What a great ring!
Any championship with Doc Rivers, we're not gonna discuss it right now, man. Come on.
Okay, fine. All right. So he had bad luck with Rose getting injured through the years, and then them drafting Jimmy Butler, this and that. Then when he departed. He was with Minnesota, who went to the playoffs in 2018 for the first time since 2004. And then once he signed with the Knicks, what he does brings them to the playoffs after many years of being out, after having a playoff drought. Come on, man, you can't tell me that. All right, just to end it with this: how many seasons did the Denver Nuggets? Giving nothing to this guy, which I actually consider he could be a good head coaching candidate for this team. How many years the Nuggets, having nothing, gave Michael Malone while they were constructing a team, while they finally made it to the playoffs and then won a championship? How many years was Michael Malone with the Denver Nuggets? How many years of patience did that organization had trust in him?
Like 10 years
Bro, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, Michael Malone, as being a coach, he brought, he was a voice for the team. Like, he brought a lot of positivity to the organization. Like, they know that the front office had to do a better job. Like, bring him good players. And then
I would also like to mention, sorry to cut you off, Raul. Mike Malone actually has a playoff winning record compared to Tom Thibodeau. Tom Thibodeau does not have a winning record in the playoffs. Mike Malone has a winning record in the playoffs.
That's why I agree that he could be if you're gonna replace Tom Thibodeau, it's gonna be on Michael Malone. Mike Brown is he's also a guy that brought the Sacramento Kings for the first time to the playoffs since 17 years of playoff drought. There's another one that I'm surprised that still doesn't have a coaching job. Mark Jackson. What he did with the Golden State Warriors, and then them giving the the keys to the car to Steve Kerr. Like, you know what I'm saying? A lot of people sleep
I
on
just think
that.
Mark is just not in for the game no more. He'd be a good candidate, but I just don't think he's in for it anymore. I think he's been done.
Nobody has given him look,
No,
Anthony, since he got let go of the Warriors, literally since he returned to ESPN as an NBA analyst, there's even been rumors of teams trying to give him like an interview. None of that. So it's not been based on him. It's based on the teams that actually don't want.
I agree with you. I don't think it's based on him. I just think, but I also think I think if you're Mike Jackson, it's just like it's been so many years. I don't think I have it in me to go back into it. You know, because it's been years. It's not to say that he doesn't. It's not to say that it's on him. I just think internally as a man, it's like, listen, it's been a while. It's a lot. It's a toll. I think it's just time to hang that up and leave that where that was.
I mean, bro, we've seen Stan Van Gundy, Jeff Van Gundy being as ESPN and TNT analysts, and even they are getting interviews. Even Jeff Van Gundy is an assistant coach for the Los Angeles Clippers. And Stan Van Gundy could probably be a head coach in the nearest future again in the NBA. So, you know what I'm saying? They still have that mindset. You know what I'm saying? That mentality as coaches. They still are they can run scheme plays. They still are creative. Like, and what he did with the Golden State Warriors, he basically built the Bugatti, the Lamborghini, the Ferrari. But then they just gave the keys to Steve Kerr, and everybody knows that, man. Everybody knows that. I'm not trying to take credit out of Steve Kerr. I'm just saying that I've seen him in certain situations with the Warriors and with USA Basketball. They're like, is he really that big of a head coach? Yeah. Or did he had everything thrown on the table for him? Like, they gave him everything. And obviously you got to be a good head coach, in order to like manage those superstars and to win championships and to go to 5 straight final appearances, this and that. But still, like, that's another topic we can leave for another day. But yeah, I believe like Tom Thibodeau and the rest of the coaches that win a championship and they get fired 2 seasons later. Coaches that bring a team to the finals get fired 2 seasons later. It's like the NBA is crazy right now how they're letting go of these coaches and not having patience like others did. Like an example, like I just mentioned, the Denver Nuggets with Michael Malone, the Milwaukee Bucks with Mike Budenholzer. Like, they had years with those teams being contenders or not, having the expectations to make it all the way to the finals or not. Like, the Knicks basically were getting there, but they sacrificed players, future first-round picks, and now this is the first season that all of them played together. Now the Nova Knicks, now another season together and maybe making some moves during summer, giving a little strength to the bench. Bro, I feel like the Knicks next season, seeing what's happening with the Boston Celtics, the Cleveland Cavaliers, wherever Donovan Mitchell is, they're always going to have success, but they're not going to make it all the way to the third round because he's never seen the third round in his whole career. Then you see the Sixers. Let's not even talk about that. Miami Heat, so many questions. And then the rest of we can continue talking about this. The Milwaukee Bucks, the future of Giannis, uncertain. Like, right now, this could have been the most stable team next to the Pacers. By firing Tom Thibodeau and now requesting these interviews, and everybody is
denying
it. It's like, so where? That's actually a good question. After that, where do the Knicks go? Where do the Knicks go? Exactly.
Taylor Jenkins or Mike Brown, or like y'all said, Mike Malone. He definitely deserves more attention.
If I was their GM right now,
yeah,
I would look to trade Mikal Bridges and OG Anunoby. Look to clear those contracts, get some extra bench pieces, and start building that bench.
Oh, Knicks Twitter would hate you when hearing that.
Well, I'm a Heat fan. I don't care. I'll say what I want. I'm a Heat fan. Look at my background. I'm literally living in the stadium right now. I don't care.
Oh, hell yeah. Oh, hell yeah.
Listen, as a Heat fan, as an outsider who's not trying to be biased, I genuinely believe that the Knicks need to trade one of their 2 guys in that starting lineup to build a better
cap space. With cap space and recover first rounds. And
they really need it, man. You know, Mitchell Robinson is not on the greatest contract in the NBA. Maybe they can pair him with like OG or make like a supermax contract or something like that. Maybe bring in a good player. I know they have no more picks, but they need to build a bench. They need to do something, man, because it's just going to be the same thing for every year for Knicks fans. They're going to go all the way to the Eastern Conference Finals with mediocrity. And then they're going to be celebrating on the sidelines 10 years later for those mediocrity players winning those games. You know,
we made
to
the
get over
Eastern
the
Conference
hump, you need a
Finals.
good bench and you need the right players. I don't want to get too crazy and say that Karl Anthony Towns should get traded because he does what he does, and he's deserved every right to have the keys to New York with Jalen Brunson. That dynamic duo is fantastic. But you need to get rid of OG and Mikal with Mitchell Robinson in that deal, in my opinion, if you're going to build that bench. Because, like, going back to campaign, you can't have campaign running your backup point guard.
Jesus, Anthony, come on, man. And
Hey.
one last thing, since we gotta get to the NHL topic real quick. Like, Anthony, do you got something to say about the Heat have to do like a different scenario outcome of the organization, like maybe switching presidents or coaches? You got, or you want to leave, or you want to leave, or you want to leave that for another day? Like, you want to leave that
for another day because it's not taking too much time. Leave for another day. I have
okay. But do you believe they have to? But did you believe they have to make
when
changes?
When that conversation comes, best believe it's gonna be you and me being clipped all over.
Oh, you can count that, man. I'm counting the days until free agency, or even during the NBA draft.
I can't handle that conversation right now. I have to get up and walk away.
I got my peoples, and we'll see where it goes from here.
All right, sure, Anthony. No, I just want to, since you started talking about the Miami Heat, I mean, I just want to. But yeah, we'll leave it for another day. All right, so
speaking of a team that actually knows how to build and win a damn championship since 2020, how about the Florida Panthers?
Which if they repeat, they basically are now a team that we can consider a new dynasty in the NHL. 3 appearances in the Stanley Cup, and now 2 games away from winning it all. All right, so the real topic is, after taking a 2-1 series lead and basically giving the Oilers a beatdown, and then also what was more interesting about this game was not the beatdowns, more about the brawls. So was this a bad game or bad sign for the Oilers?
Nick, go ahead. Man. This is for you, buddy.
I can take I guess I'll take the floor. I think this was a bad game, man. I mean, overall, the Florida Panthers, they just absolutely dominated the other guys. But I think next game Edmonton's going to come out. So, you know who the other guys are. But listen, man, Edmonton, they're going to come back swinging next game 100%. I said at the beginning of the series, this is going to go to 7. I think it's going to be very flip-flop of the series. It's very rare to find a series that flip-flops back and forth. But this is it, man. You know, because we saw the same things last year from Skinner. Skinner has been making legacy saves throughout these finals runs. Except for Game 3. Out of Game 3,
you got embarrassed in Game 3.
Well, that's the difference. You know, the Panthers have his number, and they're looking to target him, and they're gonna open up that right side of the goal every time because that's what they want.
No, and they had to put the backup goalkeeper because they were like, all right, this is enough.
But that's what I'm saying. Last year, if you don't remember, we were up 3-0, and a lot of those games we were scoring a lot of goals. Yeah. So I just think it's a bad game for the Oilers. They're going to come back, and they're going to come out swinging. I think they're going to win the next game. I think they take Game 4 in Sunrise.
What do you think, Anthony?
I'll keep it short and simple. Shout out to Aaron Eggblad for that hit on McDavid because that was legendary. Yes, sir. Yes, sir, Nick. So, first of all, that was an awesome moment. I was in Brightside, a little bar in Cold Springs, enjoying it with some fans. It was awesome. We were all hyped. The brawls were amazing. Who was the guy that was shown with the blood on his face with the tongue out? Who was that?
Gadjevich!
Shout out to him too, by the way. So, hey, man, all I'm saying is we have the momentum. We have the home ice for right now. Take advantage of it. I think we take Game 4. I think they'll take Game 5 in Edmonton, and we close it in Game 6 here at home. Take that cup. That's just me. Go ahead, Raul. Take the rest of the time.
So, was it a bad game or a bad sign?
A bad sign.
I'm gonna go with bad sign because, all right, Nick. Nick, I understand that they gotta respond back. Obviously, they're not gonna after this blowout, they're not gonna come to Game 4 with mentality basically being scared of the Florida Panthers. Obviously, you know what I'm saying. And we saw last Stanley Cup how they overcome a 0-3 deficit, and Game 7 was a 2-1 score. So the outcome could have been different. And so, like, I believe with having players like Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl, the reason why I give it a bad sign, what did they do to those 2 players? Bro, they are 2-11 when none of them produce offensively goals or assists. Basically points, yeah. So that's what the defense did to both star players who are leading in points during the playoffs. both Draisaitl and Connor McDavid. You want to see how many points they have together? Bro, 29 from Draisaitl, 31 from McDavid. And
Not
they had
surprised.
zero in game 3 when you have
Complete shutout.
when you have the best player, or if not one of the best players in the league, and then you got somebody that basically is battling with him to see who wins the most outstanding player during the playoffs. Basically, 0 producing. So for me, that's a bad sign from the Oilers, and hopefully this doesn't affect them. Well, not hopefully, because I want them to lose. But we don't know if this can affect them mentally, because then the surroundings are like, guys, like, what's going on right now? Or like, our 2 key players, like, they didn't contribute absolutely. And then that hit towards Connor McDavid, you never know that they're not gonna publicize that. You never know
He went to the locker room too after
he
that
went
hit
to
and
the
came
locker
back.
room. Like, you never know he's not 100%
No,
healthy.
they probably just took him off the ice because they weren't going to play him for the rest of the game. They knew it was an ass whooping. So
They knocked the wind out of his.
Oh
yeah, man. They knocked the wind out of his tails.
And of course, Kolia is the odd man out here. He believes Edmonton will bounce back.
I literally just said that. What do you mean he's the odd man out?
I mean, he roots for Oilers.
Oh, yeah, we know that in that regard. But
No, listen, I'm just here to represent the guy who's not here.
But prediction wise, yeah, I'm going for the Panthers game 4, taking it again, making a 3-1 lead.
Game 4.
Well, obviously, Kole's going the other side of it.
Listen, we could win the cup and he'll still be like, Edmonton still got it.
Yeah, he's a Los Angeles dude. He
roots for the Devils.
Regardless of the points that McDavid and Draisaitl have right now, they didn't produce in game 3. Let's not forget, last year McDavid didn't produce a single point until when? Game 4, game 5 of the series?
Yeah, it was a complete shutout. Yeah.
And at that point, look what happened. It was 3-0. They came back 3-3. We ended up winning. So that's why I'm not scared of us in 7. I'm not scared of us playing in Edmonton and winning in 7. It's just those guys that I'm scared of because they're gonna make the game harder than it needs to be.
Also, to top it all off in this game, like, I know that you've given Aaron Ekblad, Gustav Forsling in the defensive side, and you've got given either Evan Rodriguez, Sam Reinhart, Carter Verhey, Brad Marchand. Right now looks like the most valuable player for that team, especially when he was the unexpected hero in double overtime in the last game. But I'm still sticking to the player that I've repeatedly said to be the X factor, Sergei Bobrovsky.
Oh yeah,
32 saves, man. I'm telling you that, dude.
We love Bobby. We love Bobby.
Come on, man. Like,
in Bob we trust.
In Bob we trust. All right,
also, I do want to say, just real quick, shout out to Kachuk. I thought he looked better in Game 3. I know he's been dealing with injuries. He's not healthy. No one is in the finals. Nobody is. But I just want to give him a shout out. He looked better in Game 3. So just credit to him. You know, he's been really fighting it in these playoffs.
No, most definitely. Yeah, because the first 2 games, like, he was doing good in the first half. Then after the second quarter, like, the Panthers couldn't score. We gotta also put that. But then he also allowed 3 goals. And then the last game, basically, it was a collective, team win. And it could have been an outcome. The Oilers could have won that game as well. But it was like neck to neck from both sides. So that actually was like the most intense not playoff game, maybe Stanley Cup game I've seen in a while. To go to double overtime.
Well, it's just the Panthers' third line. The Panthers' third line this entire playoffs has been the best line in all of hockey. Like, no one has ever seen a third line like the Panthers' third line of Lundell, Luostarinen, and Brad Marchand come out and just dominate like the way they do on the ice. Brad Marchand has 4 goals in 3 games in the NHL Finals. You know how crazy it is? Dude's 36 years old. Last year, Anton Lundell looked nothing like he did this year. And, you know, he's basically projecting to be a mini Barkov, which I'm very happy about. And Luostarinen just exploded in the playoffs earlier this season.
Also, shout out to Brad. Man.
But that's what I'm saying, man. It's the whole third line. That whole third line, he's the leader of that line because he knows that Barkov, Kachuk, and Ekblad are already the main guys, and those are the leaders of that team. So he needs to figure out his role, and that's his role, being the leader for those for that third line, for those young guys, so they can move forward.
And just to end that up, a quick prediction, but before that, also give Paul Morris, like, the adjustment he does for certain games. Come on, man. Like it also has to do with the coaching. He's out coaching the Oilers Right now, since we got only 30 seconds, real quick, like tonight, game 3, Pacers and Thunder. Game 3 has always been like, how do you say, in every final series, I'm not even talking playoffs, final series, like whoever wins it, 70% have gone to win the championship. So who do you guys got?
I'm going OKC.
OKC.
Okay, see, obviously, Koila has Indiana, so we're going to be discussing that topic for next week and other more things that are happening big in USA sports. But guys, it was good seeing you like always, and I'll see you next time.
Sounds
Yes,
good, guys.
sir.
Have a good night.
Remember the 12.